Hi, this is a second part of a story about a tennis match I played in jolly old Frinton back in 1972. Brothers in Arms, Part 2. During this comedy match, I've so far focused on the arguments between the two players rather than the outbursts of temper, but there were plenty of those as well. My opponent had the same capacity as I did to hit tennis balls out of the ground in anger, and this was potentially catastrophic as we were given only 4 balls to play our matches with. Thankfully, there were games alongside us, and without any fencing between the courts, we managed to nick quite a few of their balls as we went along. This was completely out of order, of course, but what were we supposed to do? We had to play with something. I managed to win the second set 9-7, and by 3 games all in the final set, we were down to our last 2 tennis balls. Due to the length of the match, we were also the only 2 players left on court that night. It was by now 9 p.m. and getting dark. The legendary commentator of these times, Dan Maskell, had always spoken of the vital 7th game in a final set, and he was spot on here. I was 30-40 up in that 7th game with a point to take a 4-3 lead. I was at the net and had volleyed the ball deep into the corner. He got to it and just managed to flick it back, but he was then stranded yards out of court. The ball was on its way, and with my opponent nowhere, this point was surely mine for the taking. The ball clipped the net but went over. No problem, one would think, as my touch play never deserted me. All I would need to do was to touch it back over the net to win the point. I reckon without the long grass, though, the ball simply didn't bounce, and I just couldn't lift it. Somehow, the ball had nestled in the net on my side of the court. I went absolutely berserk, picking up the ball before turning every which way, trying to make my mind up as to which direction to hit it in. My panic-stricken opponent at the other end of the court was to provide me with the perfect answer to that one. He was panicking because he realised the implications of my actions. If I had dispatched this particular ball in the same way as so many before had gone, we would have had just 1 tennis ball to finish the match with. Had we then lost that, we could have gone down in history as the only match ever to be abandoned because we'd run out of balls. He came flying up the court, yelling at me, "Don't hit it, don't hit it, we need it." Once again, his words came across like an older brother trying to calm me down. It felt as if he was saying to me, "We're in this together, lad." His plea was music to my ears as I finally turned to face him before smashing the ball down into his side of the court as he took evasive action from it. It was an act of inexcusable aggression, but he didn't react to it. He simply went and picked the ball up, came back to serve, before saying one single word, which was to cut through me like a knife through butter. "Deuce," he said. It was indeed deuce, but how could this be? How could I not have won that vital 7th game? That was it for me. I barely won another point, and less than 5 minutes later, I was walking to the net to shake hands on the second match in 3 days that I should have won with ease, but somehow had managed to lose. I was in a dark place and not in the mood for help, but help was exactly what I was to get, though. I was walking to the net expecting one final volley from my opponent, a volley of abuse this time, from someone who had been at odds with me during more than 3 hours of conflict. I couldn't have got this more wrong, though. I was about to make a new friend, and it would come as a big surprise.